Hey guys, Tyrup here, and today we're taking a look at the Winter Balance Patch Preview version 5.0 changes. Starting out with the general changes, anti-tank vehicle and anti-tank gun vehicle prioritize. The majority of dedicated anti-tank units have received adjustments to their prioritized vehicles ability. They will now enter the battlefield with the ability active. Effective vehicles are Firefly, M10, Su-76, Su-85, Jag Tiger, Jag Panzer Elephant, STG, and all anti-tank gun squads. It also says recruit vehicles and recapture team weapons default to prioritizing vehicles. So this is a really nice change, especially for things like the Jackson where you have to jump out, repair it, jump back in, reactivate it. I remember that used to be quite troubling for me back when I was a bit of a beginner. And also back when I was a beginner, I was like, why are these anti-tank guns so good at shooting at tanks, but just so helpless against infantry? But if they're left on prioritized vehicles, it kind of eliminates those noob mistakes a little bit. So yeah, really nice change there. Taking a look at the prioritized vehicle change here, we're going to pump out a couple of tanks, as well as a tank gun, and see what happens. So the Cromwell comes in, targeting anything. Firefly comes in, prioritized vehicle enabled, and same story for the anti-tank gun, prioritized vehicles enabled. So you can see here, if I activate prioritized vehicles on the Cromwell, now it has like the same icon as this, and if I deactivate prioritized vehicles on the Firefly, now it's the same icon as that. So there we go. Really nice changes there. Ease of use on these tank destroyers, really helpful. Anti-air prioritize, non-grid hotkey changed from Z to H. Wire is being adjusted so units will no longer get trapped in it until they are clear. Will only become impassable and neutral once the owning player has no infantry within 2 meters of the wire. So this is another really nice change. I'm famous for wiring myself in all the time, and I even made some micro tips videos on how you can kind of wire yourself out of wiring yourself in sometimes. But that won't be relevant anymore. Be able to just walk out and you won't wire yourself in. Really nice change. So we're going to test out the wire changes, and I've wired myself in on this particular spot on Volshanka twice recently, so I figured this would be an appropriate test subject, and you can see how it would happen, right? Right there, the pyro wrapped around, and then after the wire would complete, all the mods would teleport onto this one in the center, and then you wouldn't be able to get out of here. I know you can see the vault mechanic in this particular instance, but it wasn't there for me. Previous games, I did manage to wire myself out by putting down another piece of wire, which kind of jumped me out, but shouldn't be necessary after these changes. You can see I still own the wire, which is not usual. But then once you get out of range, it kind of neutralizes, becomes solid, and you can't walk through that area anymore. So yeah, really nice change there to wire. You won't wire yourself in. And that's good times for me especially. Sandbags. All buildable sandbags have been adjusted to have a smaller cover radius, so they do not provide cover when they have been wired off. Adjusted cover radius of Soviet and all other constructible sandbags. Really nice change there. It's quite irritating, somebody built sandbags, go to the trouble of wiring them off, and I still have enough cover for one, sometimes even 2 squads behind them. So yeah, really nice change here. You'll finally be able to wire off sandbags. Taking a look at the wiring off sandbags changes, but first we're going to take a look at the cover positions behind sandbags after this change. And previously, maybe, as you're dragging along, maybe you get an extra couple positions here. Maybe your squad will bunch up slightly on one side compared to the other. But now they'll be locked in exactly with these 5 positions. If you try and fit a second squad in, you still can. But third squad, definitely not. I'll put a piece of wire down, see how that goes. Looks like I might have put it slightly towards the right hand side there by accident. And yeah, now there's almost no cover. Maybe there's 2 positions right on the edge there because I put it slightly off to one side, so maybe we'll try that one again. But either way, I mean, even that's just way improved over it is in the standard version. And yeah, now that I took the time to plant it right in the center, there appears to be no cover at all. So you can wire off these kind of standard sandbags. Take a look at the conscript sandbags instead though. So same story here. Now you can take a look at the cover positions, and you can see this is much different to how it is in the live version. There's 6 positions right here, and Usually in the live version, there's like maybe 2 cover positions like right on the edge of the sandbag. But here, it seems like they're super limited to standing like right in the center, which actually might make you slightly more vulnerable to explosives. You know, you kind of see it being spread out across the entire sandbag. You're more clustered in the center. Try fit a second squad behind this. And looks like you cannot. You can only fit another 4 models. So I suppose it's kind of similar to the sandbags. These, you know, you can fit 10 models behind this, and you can fit 10 models behind this sandbag as well. But I feel like there's a little bit more of a handicap for Soviets, you know, having 6 or 7 man squads quite often. Having only 10 model positions compared to the live version. This is a huge nerf in terms of cover positions for the Soviet sandbags. We'll see how it goes when you wire them off now as well. Looks like I might have built the wire slightly too close there. Looks like I can still get a conscript squad behind. We'll try that one again. Go right on the edge this time. Hopefully I won't be able to squeeze in behind it. Okay, yeah, that time I wired it off. So it looks like I wired it slightly too closely that time. So you have to go slightly more towards the outside than towards the inside to get that wire off complete. But yeah, now no cover at all for the conscripts from this direction. So yeah, that's a look at the wire changes on sandbags. Here we are in the live version, and we're going to get a Fox Grenadier behind the sandbags. So you get 1 squad, and then if we try and fit another squad behind there, it doesn't, you might be able to, the cover's kind of awkward, but you might be able to squeeze like 2 5-man squads behind the sandbags, so it's quite awkward. Whereas if you compare that to the Soviet one, you look at this, you can see the cover comes right out to the edge. Fit 1, 2, 3 6-man squads, 4 6-man squads, 4 6-man squads with 3 more cover positions after that. So the Soviet sandbags in the live version, you can fit just like an insane amount of infantry behind them. Wiring off sandbags in the live version. I'm going to wire off the standard sandbag here. Conscript sandbags, but as you can see, still loads of cover for this Fox Grenadier squad to get behind. You might have a bit of trouble fitting 2 squads. Well, in fact, it kind of looks like it was even easier to fit 2 squads behind it with wire on than it was pre-wire. How about the Soviet sandbags? 1, 2, 3. Oh, this time you can only fit 3 instead of 4.5. So it is a slight change there, but not a big one. Moving on to US forces, we've got the M4A3 Sherman 75mm. The experience values of the Sherman are being brought in line with its cost. Experience requirements are going down right across the range by not a huge margin. Though this does make it so, previously it was harder to vet than the Panzer IV. Now it's slightly easier to vet than the Panzer IV. Also, these experience values are the same as the Cromwell's getting down here, which I suppose does make sense. They both cost the same amount of fuel, and that's what they're saying, bringing in line with its cost, though I would probably rate the Sherman a little bit higher than the Cromwell. The M15 anti-air half-track. In anti-air mode, the M15 is still too strong compared to other anti-air units. Values for the machine gun have been lowered, while the cannon has been restored to its previous form. If any adjustments are required in the future, it will be on the 2 machine guns. So the machine gun anti-air performance is getting roughly halved, and the 37mm cannon is going back up from 20 to 30%. I know that Sander did a lot of testing in the previous patch on the different anti-air units, and this AA half-track was outperforming even the Centaur by a huge margin. So now it's kind of being brought more in line with those other dedicated anti-air units. Testing out the revised anti-air performance of the AA half-track now after these changes. In my last round testing, it was 25 and 30 seconds respectively to shoot down all planes. So that was 26 seconds. Round 2 of this testing. See how this one goes. 26 seconds though, pretty good time in the first test. Seems to have a little bit more trouble tracking them this time. 35 seconds. So that one a little bit slower. But it still seems to be one of the strongest forms of anti-air in the game, even after that last round of nerfs. British, the assault officer. The assault officer is having their experience requirements slightly lowered to match other officer units and to compensate for the unit's need to close the distance to be effective, unlike most other officer units. Experience requirements decreased by a decent chunk right across the range. Kind of nice change here. You know, the assault officer didn't see much play. I think, you know, would have seen more play this patch already with the change to medics and the nerfs to infantry sections, you know, with the capping speed and whatnot. But yeah, just a slight bit more of a nudge to the assault officer. It kind of was a little bit hard to vet up coming in at their slightly later timing, so nice change here. Cromwell. Due to its reliance on speed to survive, the Cromwell's veterancy is being adjusted so its mobility bonuses come earlier. Hunt has also been modified to give additional penetration, improving the Cromwell's ability to finish off heavier vehicles that have been wounded. Experience values have been slightly adjusted to reflect the unit's price. Hunt now grants 20% bonus penetration during the ability in addition to the 20% moving accuracy and the vehicle detection. The duration is getting increased by 5 seconds. Munitions cost is also getting increased by 5 munitions. And the Vet 2 and the Vet 3 bonuses here are essentially just getting swapped around. So now at Vet 2 you'll get 20% reload speed instead of 30%. And then all these mobility bonuses, so your tank's going to be much faster. The experience requirements are getting reduced slightly, matching the Sherman that we saw earlier. Alright, we're having a roll race here between the Panzer IV, going to pop the Blitz, and the Vet 2 Cromwell. You can see now that we're activating the Blitz, these two are almost exactly the same. So even when you got your speed boost on with the Panzer IV, you're basically neck and neck with the Vet 2 Cromwell, which you'll probably see a bit more commonly now. And once that speed boost wears off, you can see the Cromwell comfortably outrunning the Panzer IV. So yeah, now that now you get those speed boosts at Vet 2 instead of Vet 3. The Panzer IV is going to have to be on its game, otherwise it's going to get outrun. The Comet is receiving slight adjustments to its AoE as part of a bug fix, and its scatter is also being slightly increased. Furthermore, its high turret traverse is being lowered to be on par with the N4 Sherman. AoE near damage now correctly set to 0.75 instead of 1. Turret traverse from 45 to 40. Scatter from 5.25 to 5.75. Ignore previous white phosphorus change, value was already set to 2 and live. So it was the aim time. There was a intended nerf in the patch to the white phosphorus aim time, but apparently it was already set at 2 in the live version, so not necessary. So a couple nerfs here to the Cromwell, mainly in the anti-infantry department. You know, the AoE is going down slightly, so it's less likely to one-shot units. On top of that, scatter's going up, so you know, more likely to scatter off target instead of land on the squads. So there's a couple small nerfs there to the Comet. Also, the Brumbear is receiving a slight reduction in its armor to reduce its durability against massed anti-tank. Its high alpha damage against infantry will be retained to continue keeping it as a desirable unit. Armor is being reduced from 260 to 250. Grenadier Veteran Squad Leader. The G43 is being replaced with the Volksgrenadier STG 44 to lower the firepower of the Veteran Squad Leader upgrade. The G43 gave high burst damage when combined with Grenadier rifles due to each shot dealing 16 damage and significant firepower when moving. The weapon may be adjusted in future to find a middle ground between both weapons. So this change is kind of along the same lines that the infantry sections got a while back, where, you know, if all 5 rifles fired at once, they could just instantly knock out a model, which could, you know, greatly change small arms firefights. So yeah, that instant model drop is just not going to happen anymore with the STG, which has a more continuous stream of damage instead of like that high one-shot potential. Here we are looking at the different DPS profiles of the STG and the G43 in the hands of the Veteran Squad Leader Grenadiers. With the G43 down the bottom here, that's with their cooldown bonus that they received from that upgrade, as well as the STG, which MP44 as it's called here, also with their cooldown bonuses. So these are the two columns we want to check. Bottom and third from bottom. So you can see the G43 does have an edge up close out to 10 range, but then after that, the STG actually has better mid range from, you know, maybe I would guess like 12 or 11 or 12 range out to right slightly beyond 30 range. So that's interesting. at which point at 35 range the G43 takes over, and it actually has a decent amount more at absolute max range. So interesting changes here to the STG versus the G43. You know, you're going to have less burst damage, slightly less damage up close, but then stronger mid-range, slightly worse moving performance. So yeah, I mean, it's not like an absolute strict nerf. There are some use cases where the STG is actually better. You know, if you're stationary from like range 11 to something like 32, it's actually has better DPS. So interesting differences there between the G43 and the STG on the veteran squad leaders. OKW, the Panzer II Luchs. Recent testing shows the Luchs is too potent versus Garrisons, as it would deal damage to everyone in the squad. The damage value has been lowered to an area between the old and the new value from the last update. Damage modifier to Garrisons from 0.5 to 0.4. I think this is a nice middle ground. We saw in my testing that the Luchs was looking really strong in the last patch. So testing out the Luchs performance against the Garrisons again. It's the 4-window side of the building. I think in the previous version of the patch it did 31 seconds. Started at 1 minute 30, so we'll see how it goes. So there's 38 seconds this time, so a slight increase there. Now against the 3-window side of the building. Started at 3 minutes 30. I think last time it took the Luchs 38 seconds to do this. So basically the same time as it took the 4-window side in the last test. This time it took, what was that, 49 seconds, so quite a lot slower on this particular direction. Raketen. The Raketen is being modified to be less prone to death loop when it loses a crew member. This is on par with the maximum 50 cal and disc changes. Attach time from 0.7333 to 0. So now, you know, if a model that's carrying the gun dies, the model will just like jump on it really, really fast. Check out the attach time changes to the Raketen here. A sniper going to take a shot here. Okay, well that looks exactly the same. I don't personally notice a difference in this particular instance. Maybe it's slightly more responsive. But yeah, I don't really notice that that big of a difference. Here we are on the live version for a comparison. See if we can notice the difference. Oh, that's not good. Maybe there's like a tiny bit difference when he like goes to pick up the weapon. But yeah, I can't really notice that change if I'm testing this correctly. LEIG should now be more responsive when firing smoke. Testing the LEIG smoke responsiveness, same test as last time. We're going to have it spin at 90 degrees and fire 3 shells, I think it was, and it took 23.5 seconds last time at 70 range. So we'll see what the difference in time is this time. So this is about 1 second slower than the offset model that I tested last time, but still close to 3.5 seconds faster than it was last patch. So that is indeed a lot more responsive. Soviet Mechanized Armor Company. Soviet tech costs are being adjusted, with the Soviet Tank Battalion having its price reduced while the Mechanized Armor Company is being increased. With the nerfs to units such as the T-70, there is no longer a reason for Soviet light vehicles to arrive much later than their counterparts. So the Soviet Tier 4 tech structure is going up by 40 manpower and 10 fuel, but that is getting removed from the Tier 3 tech structure, which is going down by 40 manpower and 10 fuel. So this may make a quad rush a bit more appealing now that it arrives a bit faster, though that is a lot easier for Axis to deal with compared to the T-70. The Luchs and the Puma both dunk on the quad, and even for Aussie it's a lot easier to deal with. The 222 fights back pretty well against it, and double 222s are quite effective against the quad. and even just a pack can handle it a lot more easily than the T70 since it dies to 2 shots instead of 3. This change may also make rushing up mobilized reserves a more popular strategy now that it can come even earlier than before. So maybe we're just going to see some heavy infantry play from Soviets instead of light vehicle action. Penal battalions are receiving a slight manpower reduction to better match their performance, timing and tech costs in the early game. So the manpower cost to construct them going down from 300 to 290. M15 Halftrack quad upgrade. The AA mode of the quad has been increased further to improve its performance against aircraft. AA chance is going up from 3% to 5%. As I said, Sander did quite a lot of testing and this is a value that was landed on. Testing out the revised quad performance here. Started at 8 minutes. Whew. Strong start, end up taking a couple of seconds longer towards the end there, but I think that's about 28 seconds. Round 2 of the quad anti-air test. (23 seconds, 24 seconds. So it seems like the quad now may be the strongest. A little bit stronger than the M15 that we saw earlier. At least in these 2 tests. Seems to be back to being very, very strong in the anti-air department. And finally, bug fixes. Fix an issue where the Aussies Puma projectile did not display properly. Fix an issue where commandos will become temporarily invulnerable when deploying smoke on retreat. I feel like that's a nerf more than just a bug fix. Fix an issue where new Raketen for crew members will be visible if the unit was reinforced while cloaked. A huge thank you goes out to my Patreon backers for helping support the production of these videos.